Well, good afternoon, everyone. 안녕하세요. I'm Rene. I work in the Center of Excellence for Integrated Marketing Management in SAS. And Center of Excellence in SAS basically has three roles. The first role is that in a Center of Excellence, we're responsible to support large projects, large international projects for marketing automation, real-time marketing, marketing operations management, and the whole of integrated marketing management. The second role that the Center of Excellence has is that we are a think tank and a knowledge hub when it comes to marketing-related questions that organizations have and the way that SAS can address those. And the third, and maybe one of the more important topics that we cover, is that we are a direct link into our R&D department and into our product management department in order to drive the future development of our marketing solutions in SAS. So that is in short who I am. The title of my presentation is Marketing Optimization in a Real-Time World. And I'm going to cover a couple of topics today in order to address that theme. The first thing is that I want to start saying and talking about the customer experience and the consistent customer experience, and that it all starts with insight, with information. And I'm going to provide you some information. And as a collective, maybe we can try to recall what I've all said. The next thing is I'm going to take you through a small visionary demo. It's only 2 or 3 minute demo, but just to give you an idea what an optimal customer experience could be like. The third topic that I'm going to cover is the marketing decision hub. That is where real-time optimization actually takes place. That is where the whole of integrated marketing management comes to life. And the third thing is that I want to take you through, or the fourth thing, I want to take you through some references, and that's my final for this presentation. So 4 topics that I will cover. So to start with, the first one is the customer experience starts with insight. So let me give you some more insight about me. I'm 44 years old. I live in a very small country called the Netherlands. I'm from the city of Rotterdam, which is about 80 kilometers from Amsterdam. I have, together with my wife, 4 kids. The 2 oldest ones are 14, they're a boy and a girl, a daughter of 12, and a son of 8. We have 0 pets. We don't have animals, not because we like them, but one of the kids is allergic. I like to listen to music. Whenever I'm not working, I like to listen to music, whatever that music would be. It can be classical, it can be opera, it can be hard rock. It all depends on my mood of the moment. When I have some time left and I don't have enough time to do it, I try to hit a ball straight over a piece of grass, and they call it golf. I'm a big fan of KLM. One of the reasons I'm a fan of KLM is they take me all over the world. They flew me here on Sunday without delays and without losing my luggage. And I'm a big advocate for Apple. And the difference between being a fan and an advocate is that if you're a fan, that means you will give advice when people ask you to give advice. And if you're an advocate, that means you start talking about a specific topic even if you're not asked to do that. I won't talk about Apple today, of course. I have 317 friends on Facebook and 879 connections on LinkedIn. So why is this important, you think? Well, I'll come back to that later on. If I map my LinkedIn connections, it looks something like this. And you've probably all seen these types of diagrams that you can create online if you're a user of LinkedIn. But what this tells me is that I know all of these 879 people. One of the criteria for accepting someone in my LinkedIn network is A, they should not be a customer, because I don't like to have customers in my LinkedIn network. And the reason is that I don't want to give away who we work with. Yeah, that's a competitive thing. But it's also giving me an interest in my historic career. I used to work for a company called Hyperion. Then I worked for Epiphany, then I worked for Unica, which is now IBM, and 3.5 years ago I joined SAS. So that's all represented in this network, but this network is not always the same. It's always changing, it is moving. People move jobs, people change roles, right? So this network is constantly evolving. And that's only for 879 people that I know, that I have a relationship with, and that I can have a conversation with. But if that were 879,000 people, that was not manageable anymore, let alone if it were almost 9 million people. 9 million is about the average number of customers that the SaaS solutions serve in the European area. So 9 million people, then it wouldn't look like this anymore, but then it would more look like the universe. So if you're looking at all of your customers, you can identify a couple of them, and you can probably identify them by name, the bright stars in this universe. But the majority of your clients who you want to have a relationship with and a one-on-one dialogue with, they will be in that big white spot in the center where you cannot identify them, so you need to have the right technology and the right solutions in order to be able to do that. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Typically, if I'm in a smaller audience, I'm asking people to repeat all the attributes about me, like my age and the number of kids and that kind of stuff. I'm not going to do that today, but typically, it takes about 20 people in one room to get to these 15 data points, right? Which is kind of interesting. Because if you remember that if you're serving 9 million or maybe 50 million customers, then you cannot recall it. So you need to have that information readily available. And what you want to do is for every single customer, because what you know now of me is only 15 data items, but probably per customer, you want to have maybe 250 different attributes. So that is all about the single customer view, the 360-degree view of the customer. And this is nothing new. 15 years ago, when I first started to sell marketing solutions, we were already talking about that 360-degree view of the customer. But it's evolving. And what I mean by that is that a couple of years ago, we were talking about who are our clients. Like socio-demographic information, we have that typically. We know who our customers are. But do we also know how they use our solutions or how they use our products? Do we also know what products they actually have, right? That's the next thing down in a 360-degree view. But where the challenge starts is when we think about what customers say about us. What is the feedback that they give to us? And that is very often unstructured data, right? That is information that's provided in a call center environment. That is information provided on forums, on our own website, through email, etc. But do we know that, and can we attribute all that feedback to the actual client? And even it gets even more complex if we think about who they influence. Who do our customers influence? What is their position in a network? Are they a leader? Are they a follower? And can we use that information to differentiate how we communicate with these people, right? And also how the customers interact amongst themselves. What do they say about your products, about your brand, about your service, to each other, right? Do you have that information? And can you connect that specific information to the customer? Another dimension of the 360-degree view of the customer is to do predictive modeling, to predict the loyalty of a customer, to predict the churn ratio of a customer, to predict the value and to predict their potential, right? Some organizations are already very far ahead in this analytics area of the 360-degree view, and some are at the beginning there. But like I said, it's evolving. So there's new attributes being added. Things like location-based data. Everyone, at least I think everyone in this room is carrying a smartphone, whether it is a Samsung, an LG, an iPhone, or another brand, right? You have probably 20 applications installed on your phone that you share your location with, because when you installed the application, you said, yes, you can track where I am. On the other side, on the consumers, you provide that information. But the owner of the application gets a lot of information about you, where you are at the moment, or where you are when you are using that specific application. It's also part of that 360-degree view of the customer. And you can also take it a little bit further. If you go and look at emotions of customers, many companies these days start to use video chat. And if you look into video chat and you look at facial expressions of customers, you can tell a lot about emotions that they're feeling while they're interacting with your organizations. The same goes for analysis of voice data, right? You can tell if someone is happy, unhappy, angry, etc. It's also part of that 360-degree view, and that view is evolving, so new attributes will be added over time. And that 360-degree view you want to create for every single customer in that universe, so also for all the people that are in that white spot, right? And that's just me saying that to you, the SaaS customers, and me being a SaaS person, right? But is it only us saying that? No, it's also the external impartial parties that say this. So eConsultancy brings out a quarterly report, and this is their Q3 or their Q4 2013 reports, where they basically did an investigation amongst 1,000 CMOs. And I thought the results of that study were pretty shocking to me. It is an opportunity for SaaS, but it's also an opportunity for you as organizations to make a difference, right? Because if you know that only 12% of organizations have an integrated approach to their marketing, right, then you must see that as an opportunity for you, because if you get your act together and make sure that you can do that across all of your channels and across all of your campaigns, you have a competitive advantage over your competitors in the market. Another thing is, I thought that a single customer view was pretty common, that everybody was already considering it or was already convinced that they had one. Well, only 25 or 26% of organizations claim they actually have a single customer view. That means 74% does not have a single customer view. The customer journey analysis, like how can I track my customers from interest to purchase, from purchase to maturity, from maturity to churn. How can I track my customers? Can I do that? Well, 19% of the organizations claim they can. And 14% of the organizations only do something in real time, right? The most shocking fact is the bottom one. It basically says that 92% of all marketers don't have a single platform for their data. So that means they're still working in silos, that they probably have a solution for online, they have a solution for traditional outbound, they have a solution for mobile, etc., etc. Is that a risk? Well, yes it is, because if you want to be consistent in your messaging to your clients, you don't want to contradict yourself. You want to be having a dialogue, and if you don't have an integrated solution, that dialogue is pretty hard to set up. So what I've done is I've created recently a visionary demonstration for the automotive industry. And if you look at it, you can also think about it as if it were your own company. If you are a bank, if you're a telco, if you're an insurance company, a production, a manufacturing company, think about it as your own organization. It's a very quick demo, so I hope you can keep up, right? This is about BMW. BMW, the car manufacturer from Germany. You probably all know them. You see here in Korea a lot of BMWs. Looks like it's a popular car. And I must admit, I'm guilty. I drive a BMW as well. The lease of my car is about to expire. So I need to buy, at some point, I need to buy a new car. I was in Berlin, and in Berlin you have the Potsdamer Platz, right? It's a train station, and it's a nice area. There's an Apple store. And being an advocate for Apple, of course, I had to go in. But there was also a billboard for the new BMW 4 Series. And I don't know if they also already sell them here in Korea, but the new BMW 4 Series is a very nice car, right? On most billboards these days, you find a QR code. A QR code you can scan. And I scan it to my phone. And this phone that I have here in my hands is 8 channels in one. If you're in your organization thinking about channel consistency, so saying the same thing across all of your channels, be aware that I have 8 channels in my hand right now. So if I am inconsistent, so if I'm not consequent in what I tell my clients, they get confused. This phone is 8 channels. It is the internet for web browsing. It is email for communication. It is social media, Twitter, Facebook, Google+. It is messaging. It's WhatsApp. It is Telex. I'm not sure what you're using here. What it is as well, it is something you can make phone calls with, but that's probably the last thing that people do with their phone these days. So this is all channels in one. So what I'm doing is I'm browsing the web, and since I also installed the BMW application, I can use that, or BMW can use and track down all the information and everything that I'm doing inside of that app. So I'm seeing all the information about the BMW 4 Series, and I can ask for materials to be sent to my house, or I can test drive the car. Well, you know, in automotive, if people test drive, that is a very good purchase signal, and 80% of the people that test drive a car actually also buy the car later on or buy a similar car. So I want to go for a test drive, and I want to drive the 4 Series, the 4 Series Coupe, and I can leave my details behind if I'd like to. But there's also this login with Facebook icon. I click that, I log in, and I allow BMW to get access to my public profile information. So what that means is that in my public profile, I share that I'm married, that I have 4 kids, that I like pages like BMW, KLM, Apple, Mercedes, Audi, right? All of that information is available. And it also opens my app, because I was talking about a test drive. It knows that I want to go for a test drive. I'm now logged in through my Facebook account. So what I can do now is I can say I want to ask for a test drive through email, through the dealership, through the call center, or through video chat. And I choose the option video chat. And I'm talking to a lovely agent on the other side of the phone who has access to everything about me. So she can see, for instance, that I've scanned the the QR code on that sign. She can see that I have received the BMW 4 information on my browser. She knows that I'm a pretty satisfied customer, that I am a low-risk customer, that I'm very loyal in paying my lease dues, that I am this person. They know where I live, who I am. They know my social media information from Facebook. But since I'm sharing my location, they also know exactly where I am. So if you look top right-hand corner, this is the exact location, Potsdamer Platz in Berlin. So she knows everything about me, maybe even more than I think, right? What she also knows is, based on my profile and based on the fact that she has been able to connect my Facebook ID now to my phone and to my account and to the fact that I am already driving a BMW, she says, well, you are about to change your tires from winter tires to summer tires. That's what we typically do in Europe, end of March, early April, right? That's when the snow is off the roads and we can start driving normal again. So she says, well, you can do the test drive while you're changing your tires. I said, no, that's boring. I'm not interested in that. But even higher score and higher propensity of me accepting it is a test drive in the BMW museum in Munich. Because BMW driving is not all about driving a car, it is about the experience that goes with it. And that's how BMW also wants to sell their cars, as an experience. And one of the important things that you need to understand is that in the past, like in the last 25, 40 years, the dealerships were owning the relationships with the clients, and the manufacturer was just the deliverer of the goods, the cars here, right? But what happens over time is that the manufacturers want to sell directly to the public because they want to know who their clients are, who's interested, what they're looking at, what type of cars they're configuring online, so what the demand from the market is, right? That is a trend that we see, at least in Europe, that the dealerships are more or less a channel for the manufacturers, right? That is a big change in the market that we're seeing. So I'm really interested in that specific offer, so I accept the offer, and I'm getting an SMS sent to me that at some point I will receive the tickets through email. I can go to the museum and do my test drive. So a couple of weeks after my test drive, I haven't made the decision yet, and my lease is about to expire. I go into the dealership. I'm walking with my wife to my dealer, because in the Netherlands it's typical that the man chooses what car he wants to drive, what the options are, but the ladies decide the color of the car, right? And in my case, it's fine. I'm not colorblind. As long as it's not red, it's fine for me, right? But good thing is we got pretty much similar taste, so it's going to be a gray car. Not that I'm a gray person, but I like a car in gray. So I scan the code that is next to that car that's configured over there. And what I'm scanning is not the specifications of the car, but it is the financing options. There is a barcode there that takes me to my financing options in my BMW app. And what it tells me here is that, oh, sorry, I have to go one step further. What it tells me here that the price of the car is 30,309 euro. That's how cheap cars are in Germany. Probably in Korea, they're much more expensive. The interest rate is an interesting one because I get a personal interest rate based upon my risk score, based upon my previous behavior, and that kind of stuff. So this interest rate is not standard, it's personalized to me. When I lease this car for 36 months, I pay 683 euros per month for this car to drive it. Another thing is that I have a pre-approved credit already. This is another personal offer that is made to me because they know who I am. They know that I test drove the car. So in the background, they have already done all the maths. And if I'm not exaggerating, I'm not sort of trying to buy a BMW 7 Series, but I'm staying inside of the limits of my budget, buying a new 4 Series. I have already a pre-approved credit, so I can continue the purchase of this car. So in this very quick demo, what we've seen is that we've used 7 different channels to set up a constant dialogue with this customer. From the moment that he was interested by scanning that barcode on that, billboard in Potsdamer Platz, up until the moment that he got a pre-approved credit for his car. It is consistency throughout the whole customer experience. And like I said, you don't want to do that for just one client. You want to be able to do that for all of your customers. And the 3 topics that I've addressed in this demo are mobility. Everything that we've done is handled through a mobile device, right? There is no email, there is no computers used, it is all through a handheld device. So mobile marketing is a very important topic to address. Another thing is that we're talking about real time. Real time as in extending offers while you're interacting with the customer. We learned why the customer is calling us. He was calling us for a test drive. We offered him 2 different options for that test drive, a real-time offer. We also had a pre-approved credit that we could immediately extend to the customer once he wanted to sign up for a car loan. And the third topic, that's basically throughout the whole of the whole scenario for all of your customers, is a big data challenge, especially if you look at real-time data, the real-time behavior collection, behavior online on your websites, behavior in their mobile apps, and especially also location data. Location data is something that's sometimes underestimated. Underestimated in we have a lot of information, but we don't know how to use it. That's a very common problem. But also, what can we do with that location data? And can we actually use it? Yes, we can, if we apply some rules to that. And I'll come back to that later on in a business case that I have for an organization that is actually using location-based data. Screen is shaking a little bit. It's not me. So the Marketing Decision Hub, that's the next topic. That's where real-time marketing optimization comes to life. So think about that example that I've just shown, the omni-channel marketing experience. And omni-channel means that you're using multiple channels while you're interacting with an organization. When is omni-channel a very good example? Well, for instance, in Europe we have a company called MediaMarkt. I'm not sure if you're familiar with them, but MediaMarkt, they sell consumer goods, right? Televisions, washers, dryers, the whole lot, right? If I go into that shop, then very often I have my price comparison sites open. And I'm looking at specific products and I say, okay, what does this product cost somewhere else? And what MediaMarkt is doing, it's giving me offers while I'm talking to a salesperson based on what they do. They look at the same sort of sites that I'm looking at. So they do dynamic pricing when you walk into the store. They have all electronic price signs and you see prices change while you're shopping in that shopping mall. It's a very interesting concept. They're doing tests with that now in the Netherlands. But that's also what you're doing in this example. You're using your phone while you're in the actual dealership. You're using your phone while you're actually talking to the agent and while the agent is giving you all kinds of real-time offers. So that is a good example of omni-channel. So what does it take to do omni-channel marketing? Well, what we have for that is the Decision Hub concept. This is not a product, this is the way that we look in SaaS at integrated marketing management, right? So what it starts with is with a central decision hub. And why central? Well, we've seen that most organizations don't have that approach to central marketing, right? 92% of organizations do not do this. But what I mean by that marketing decision hub is that all of your decisions you take in one central place. All fed from, and this is reading from left to right, from your customers, all of your channels, your social media, your blogs, your entire outside world that you analyze. Because that is where you get your inputs from. That is where you get your inbound requests for offers from. Right? Whether they are banner ads, whether they are personalized offers in a call center, or whether they are sales prompts while you are talking to one of your high-value customers, right? Inbound interactions that you have, but also your traditional outbound communications. I have a message that I need to send out to my client, so it needs to go out. But also the responses to inbound requests I consider to be outbound marketing. So there is this constant flow of inbound requests and outbound messages going on. But you need to be consistent in what you say, so you need to apply process to that. So this is the external world, right? SaaS does not typically own the channels. We can own the channels like email, and we can own the channel like SMS, but call centers we don't own because SaaS don't do call center applications, so you need to integrate with that. We integrate with websites, we integrate with all sorts of channels there. So, but that's what we consider the external world. So on the side of the organization, that's where SaaS covers a lot. That's where SaaS basically covers everything. There's three components there. There's actions, there's insights, and there's rules. But let's start with actions, because what do I mean by actions? What are you defining in your organization? It is your marketing campaigns, it's your service activities, it is your sales programs, right? It's your contact strategies and your regular communications. That is the actions part. That's what you cover there. That's what you define, and that's what you feed into that marketing decision hub. But also the insights, and insights are a very important part here, and that's one of the key differentiators in SaaS, which is the analytics, right? Apply the insight into everything you do with a client. Make sure that you can score customers, you can determine the value of customers, etc. But you also want to look at historical data. What have we done in the past with this client? But also important is the context. What did we learn during the current interaction with a client that might change the message that we give to a customer? We learned that the customer wants to do a test drive in the example that we've seen. We learned that the customer is interested in that specific model. That information is immediately driving an action that needs to take place. So the insights are also fed into that marketing decision hub. And finally, there's the rules that you apply, traditional business rules that you have in your organization, such as contact rules. How often can I communicate to a client? How often can I display a banner ad and assume at some point that a customer is not interested to see it once more on the same day, in the same week, or never? What are my constraints? And constraints can be anything from the number of offers, the conflicting messages prevention. I don't want to sell, for instance, a loans product and a savings product at the same time to the same client, right? What are my channel restrictions? Think about channel capacity, but also enforce a specific minimum of messages to be sent, for instance, to your call center, because you don't want your call center people to run out of outbound calls at some point, right? So all of these rules determine, together with actions and insights, what happens into that marketing decision hub in order to determine what you're going to communicate to your clients. So if we dive a little bit more into that marketing decision hub, you will see that you will do in that decision hub optimization based upon analytics. That's a very important part. But what you also do is you orchestrate your actions, and orchestration is something else than optimization. Optimization is very often looking at priorities based upon likelihood of customers being interested in a specific product or offer. But orchestration looks far more at the organization itself. What are the goals of the organization? How many new customers do we need? How many products do we have to sell this month, etc. So it's a combination of optimization versus your business goals. And that is what I call orchestration. So then zoom into that decision hub. So that circle is now a little bit enlarged. The key benefits of having that marketing decision hub is that you have a dynamic channel management option. You don't need to define every single interaction for every single channel, because what you're working with is with a central decision hub. So you don't have these silos where you typically would make your decisions. What are we going to extend over the web? What are we doing with our call centers? What are we doing with our outbound communication? And how do we make sure that everything is in line? Your decision logic needs to be channel agnostic, and what I mean by channel agnostic is that it doesn't matter which channel a customer uses, because typically a customer does not realize that he's using a channel. He's just interacting with your organization, and whether he uses the phone, the web, the call center, whatever, right? He just wants to interact. But the decision logic needs to be channel independent. And in the end, you determine what type of content you're going to deliver. Is it a sales script that you want to talk about? Is it a banner ad that you're going to show? Is it a letter that you're going to send to the client, or an email or an SMS, right? You want to have one place to administer it all and to orchestrate. Because if you do orchestration in multiple places in your organization, how can you be consistent in your messaging to the client? Can you imagine that if I was in a sales process of a car and at some point I get an offer for a BMW 7 Series that is so not in line with what I'm actually trying to achieve here, right? That would be a conflicting message that would confuse the customer, right? And that would at some point break the whole sales cycle. It needs to be easy to use, of course, the solution itself. You have one central place to go to. And of course, everything you do needs to be value-driven. Value-driven from an outcome perspective. So it is not doing marketing based upon segments, it is doing outcome-based segmentation, right? What are we trying to achieve? Yeah? What is the objective of our organization? And then make sure that your marketing campaigns are executed according to that, right? That is what that marketing decision hub is. And this is the lowest level of detail I'm going from a technical perspective. So actions, rules, and insights drive a lot of unorganized offers. It is all possible combinations for all your clients, right? Then you want to apply optimization and orchestration to that, applying all your business rules, applying all your analytics to it, and applying all your constraints and organizational objectives. And that will then lead to a list of optimized offers, or some organizations refer to that as next best activities. And what happens then, if you look at the bottom, that a lot of these next best activities flow through standard communications to your external channels as traditional outbound communications. I want to send this message through direct mail, or I want to send this message through email or SMS. Traditional outbound communications. But on the other hand, you're using the same decision hub to apply for inbound marketing. So what you do is, the first thing you do, if you get a request from a channel, And a request from a channel could be someone presenting himself at the website, someone calling the call center, etc. That request then is being analyzed like, do we have something to offer to that client? Do we have offers in our list of next best activities? And then we can, for instance, offer a product that we have already sent to that customer through direct mail or email. Just be consequent, yeah? Be repetitive in what you're saying, so don't contradict yourself. But if you learn new things, then you need to apply real-time analytics and real-time optimization in order to extend either a complete new set of offers or reprioritize the offers that you have already calculated for that client. And there's always decision logic involved, like customers below a specific age can never get a specific offer, or customers that already have product A can never receive product B, even if they are browsing for that specific product and the context tells me that they're interested in that product. So there's always decision logic there. And all of this whole concept of that decision hub is covered by 3 core SaaS CI solutions. That is SaaS marketing automation. SaaS marketing automation takes care of the outbound marketing. Yeah? It takes care of analytics. It takes care of data integration and a little data quality. Real-time decision manager is a solution that takes care of your real-time part of the messaging, right? So if you get a request from a channel, you have the capability then to extend messages back to that channel based upon decision logic, based upon analytics. And then you have marketing optimization. Marketing optimization to optimize across all of your campaigns, both inbound and outbound, and determine which offer is going to be extended to a specific client at a specific moment in time, applying all of these business rules, constraints, and organizational objectives. That is the solution concept of the Decision Hub. But when I talk to organizations, I always realize, and I'm building this slide out, is that every organization is at a different stage of maturity. Some organizations are at the beginning of campaign management. They still need to think about how they're going to connect with customers through standard communications. Some organizations already have that in place and are doing already some form of optimization. So then the next step could be real-time. But what type of real-time campaigns are you doing? So what we typically do is we start a conversation with these organizations and assess where they are, and then advise a personal roadmap for every single organization. Like, what is a logical next step? And that is based on a series of interviews that we typically take with the business users, with the analysts, with the database marketeers, but also with the CMOs. What is it that your perception is of marketing, and is that the reality that we see with the people that are actually executing on that vision? So what I'm saying here is the future is now. So I'm looking at a couple of references. And I know that I only have 2 minutes left, so I'll be quick. So one of the references here is a global telecoms communications company. This telecommunications company is predominantly operating in Europe and in South America, and they have a headquarter in Spain. I cannot mention the name, but probably if you're in the telco business, you know who I'm talking about. They are an existing campaign management and SaaS optimization customer, and they wanted to go real-time. And they said, okay, how should we go real-time? Should we go real-time like our competitors are doing, very fractional in a call center and then in another channel and then in another channel? Or do we want to make it more customer-specific and more event-based? And that was a good step for them to take. So they're using 2 SaaS solutions, Event Stream Processing and Real-Time Decision Manager, to do their event-based marketing. So what they're doing is they're taking their network events, their call data records, their exception events, and what they're doing is they're creating event triggers. If this happens and that happens, or only if this happens, I want to call the real-time marketing engine to determine what I'm going to extend or what offer I'm going to make to my client. And they've implemented this in 3 scenarios. And that's something that we started in December 2013, and it went live last week on April 1st. We're doing throttling campaigns, and throttling campaigns mean that if I'm over my data usage at some point, that bandwidth is narrowed to, say, 512K per second, which means that you cannot watch any videos, download any good content. But you still are connected, so you can read your email. That's typical things that telcos do in Europe. By the way, I found out yesterday by just asking, is that an average data package is about 10 to 15 gig in Korea. In the Netherlands, for instance, it's only 1 gig. Right? So there's a little bit of a difference. We don't use that much video content and much graphical content probably than here. But still, the business issues are pretty much comparable. And what they do then is if you have a throttling event, they run models on what to extend to a specific customer that runs out of data. And when should we offer it? Should we offer it before the customer runs out? Or should we first have a customer experience the pain of not having the bandwidth that they're used to have, right? So that is the big challenge that organizations sometimes have. It's like, when do we extend offers? But also, what is the duration left in the month for extending that offer? If I'm at the last day of the month, a 5 gigabyte offer is probably not very interesting to me, because on the next day, my 17 gig package starts kicking in. So make sure that you also make a relevant offer. So what they're seeing is by applying contextual data into their decision process, right, and doing it in real time rather than 48 hours later, because that's what they did before they implemented this, they see an increase in ARPU, an increase in revenue of 5 million, just 5 million euro, that is, from just these 3 scenarios. And they have now a team in this organization that is a team of IT people and a team of marketing people that work together to create these event triggers. And one of the learnings of this project is that you need to bring IT and the business very close together. Because if the business designs for a scenario and IT is not willing to build the scenarios in event stream processing, then it's not going to work. And the other way around as well. The IT people can be very creative, but if there's no marketing program to support it, it doesn't work, right? So very important to bring the 2 organizations together. They're currently in a near real-time environment, but that has to do with the data provisioning from the network. So they have a 4 to 6 minutes delay in sending out the offers, which is relatively real-time, right? Because it used to be 48 hours before they were able to process that data and do it in batch. So a big gain for them. They're currently thinking about using this solution for all of their network events and then make it relevant to their customers as well. It's a relatively easy to implement solution. It sounds very complicated, but we've brought this live in 4 months, and they basically built new connectors to new data sources literally in a couple of weeks, and they built their campaigns now more or less themselves internally in this organization. The pre-last case study that I want to cover, if I have the time, is Weave. Jin Lee was already talking about Weave this morning, but it is an organization that is a combination of 3 telcos, a joint venture of Everything Everywhere, used to be Orange in the past, O2 and Vodafone. And what they're doing is, if you are walking the high street of London, for instance, they push offers to your smartphone if you have the Weave app installed. And that's all based on the location where you are. So that whole platform is powered by SAS, the analytics, the extension of the offers, the location-based decisions, right? The geofencing, that is all powered by SAS, that whole solution there. They are competing the over-the-top vendors like Google, Facebook, and there was this big fight between Weave and Google if they were actually able or allowed to start this Weave company. So they fought it to the European court in Brussels, and they had to open up their privacy regulations, their opt-in process, what they were going to do with the data, how secure everything was. So that was a process that took them 6 months. So the project got delayed by 6 months. But in the end, they got the green light from the European court to go ahead. So this solution is absolutely privacy-proof. What it requires is a double opt-in. So you install the app, Once you install the app, you need to tell them that you want to share your location and that you agree with their terms and conditions. Then you get an email sent to you, and you need to reply to that email as well, or follow a link that they sent you in that email. That's the double opt-in clause. They need to do that. They've done that, so now they're compliant with what they need to do. I'm skipping this petrochemical example. I cannot name the company, but if you look at that little thing from the C top right-hand corner, you probably know which company it is. And what they're doing is they're doing also location-based data for motorists to offer them specific products. This is not future. This is something that organizations are actually doing today. So that whole concept of the Marketing Decision Hub is not future. It is something that you can already do today. One organization, and this is the pre-final slide, that has embarked on this journey from a slightly different angle is ABN AMRO Bank. ABN AMRO Bank, one of the retail banks in the Netherlands, and what they done is they wanted to do a project for online marketing. So they invited IBM, they invited Teradata, they invited SAS to present to them our online marketing solution. And we said, well, hang on a second. What are you trying to do here? Are you trying to create yet another silo of information? Right? So we said, okay, maybe we need to take this to a wider audience. So we involved the COO office, and the COO office in the bank is sort of the linking pin between business and IT. So that department was a key department to get on board in that whole process, because business and IT needed to be brought together. And once we achieved that, we had a bigger audience, we had the whole marketing team, so we could sell the concept and present the concept of that integrated marketing management vision, that decision hub concept, right? The next thing down was they needed to get funding for that big project, because they had a lot of software already on the shelf. We call it shelfware, but they were not using it, and some of it that they were using, they were not using it to the full extent. So they needed to get a business case to replace some of their components. And what we did is we started with an optimization project on top of their existing campaign management solution, and we created a business case for cost saving and extra sales that is marketing related for 30 million euro per year. That is their internal business case, 30 million per year. What we've done is we've used that, took that to the board of the bank, presented it. The board bought into the story because we did a proof of value on their data, right? We presented the outcome of that, and now they're implementing this whole decision hub concept. They're currently at the point when they're applying real time. So they've done campaign management, they're doing the optimization, and now they're going into the real-time world. The first channel is their online bank environment. The next channel will be the public domain for their website, and the third channel will be the advisors and their call center. They consider looking at a customer from an air traffic control tower. You know, an air traffic control tower, if you take the analogy of an airport, you have your incoming traffic, you have your outbound aircraft, you have your limited capacity at the airport, right? All of these constraints is how they see their customers, right? And that concept works well in the bank, and that's also a concept you can probably take away to think about for your own organization. Do we have in our organization that air traffic control tower? Do we have that marketing decision hub? So the last thing is that ABN AMRO needed a business case. And if you think about an implementation, you need to think about a business case. You need to create it, because what you need to do is you need to demonstrate that there is light at the end of the tunnel, right? Because making a change is costing money, is costing time, right? It's costing energy. And it's costing a little bit of pain, because changes are things that people are afraid to make changes. Changes in an organization, changes in life in general. So my statement, and that's also my closing statement for today, is that if you want to make a change, the perceived pain of change has to be less than the pain of staying where you are today. Thank you.